It's 7:43 a.m., and you're staring at a resignation letter. 2 paragraphs, polite, professional, and absolutely devastating to your entire operation. Marcus ran a 7-person marketing agency, good culture, decent pay. Then his best account manager left for a competitor, not for more money, but for Fridays off. What happened next cost him $23,000, and he never saw it coming. Here's what nobody tells you about losing an employee. The salary you stop paying, that's the cheap part. The real cost hides in plain sight. Lost productivity, training hours, client relationships walking out the door, knowledge that existed only in one person's head. Today, we're breaking down the math that most small business owners get wrong and the surprisingly cheap fixes that actually work. Let's start with what Marcus didn't calculate. Sarah, his account manager, made $46,000 a year. Decent salary for a small agency. When she left, Marcus thought he'd just hire a replacement at the same rate. Simple swap. But that's not how turnover works. According to Applause's 2026 turnover analysis, replacing an individual employee costs between 50% and 200% of their annual salary. For management roles, it's the higher end. At Sarah's salary level, Marcus was looking at $23,000 to $46,000 in total replacement costs, and he'd budgeted for zero. Where does that money actually go? Let's trace it. First, there's the hiring cost itself, job postings, recruiter fees, interview time. The average cost just to hire a new employee, not train them, just get them in the door, is approximately $4,700. And it takes an average of 42 days to fill that position. 42 days. That's 6 weeks of someone else covering the work, or the work simply not getting done. Then there's onboarding. Even if your new hire is experienced, they don't know your systems, your clients, your quirks. That learning curve costs real money. It typically takes new hires 4 to 8 months to reach full productivity. During that wrap-up, you're paying full salary for partial output. And here's the part that really stings. When Sarah walked out, she took relationships with her. 3 of Marcus's clients specifically asked where she went. 1 followed her to the new agency within a month. $12,000 in annual revenue, gone. Not because of price, because of a person. According to recent data, more than 22% of businesses report that turnover costs them over $100,000 annually. For small operations, that can be existential. Across American businesses, lost productivity from turnover costs $1.8 trillion every single year. Trillion with a T. So that's the problem. Now here's the part that surprised me when I started digging into the research. According to Lynn HR Consulting's 2026 data, work-life balance is now the #1 driver of voluntary turnover. Not compensation, not title, balance. Think about what that means for small businesses. You might not be able to match Google's salary. But can you offer what Google can't? The research is clear. Lynn HR Consulting found that flexibility, learning, recognition, culture, and well-being are now the 5 core pillars of retention. Notice what's missing? Salary. Sarah didn't leave Marcus for more money. She left because another agency offered her every Friday off during summer months. That cost them exactly nothing. And here's the thing Marcus realized too late, he could have offered the same thing. He just never thought to ask what she actually wanted. ADP's 2026 HR research found that small business owners' top concerns are business growth at 26%, labor costs at 24%, and talent sourcing at 23%. But here's the irony. Retention solves all 3 problems. Keep your people, and you solve growth, costs, and sourcing in one move. So let's talk solutions. And I want to be clear, every business is different. What works for a 10-person service company might not fit a solo e-commerce operation. Here's where I'd start. Calculate your actual turnover costs. Take last year's departures and multiply by 50 to 100% of their average salary. That number might shock you. According to Applause, when you factor in recruiting, training, lost productivity, and institutional knowledge, even entry-level positions cost 50% of annual salary to replace. Once you know that number, you understand your budget. If keeping 1 employee saves you $23,000, spending $500 on retention isn't an expense, it's arbitrage. According to ADP's 2026 research, companies with a strong learning culture reported a 57% retention rate compared to only 27% for companies with moderate learning culture. That's a 30 percentage point difference. And building a learning culture doesn't require massive investment, it requires intentionality. Consider starting a low-cost learning budget. Even $50 per month per employee for online courses sends a clear signal. You're investing in their growth, not just their labor. The HR industry analysis is clear. Recognition in 2026 is personal and immediate. It's not employee of the month. It's real-time acknowledgement of impact. Try this. Set a weekly reminder to send one specific, genuine thank you message to a team member. Not generic praise. Specific acknowledgement of something they did well. Hey, the way you handled that difficult client call yesterday showed real patience. I noticed, and I appreciated. That takes 30 seconds to write. Its impact lasts months. ADP found that 90% of small business leaders agree they're responsible for supporting employees' physical well-being. But saying it and acting on it are different things. And honestly, supporting well-being can be remarkably low cost. It might mean allowing walking meetings, respecting lunch breaks, not sending emails at midnight. Consider auditing your flexibility options. Survey your team. Which scheduling accommodations would matter most? Often it's surprisingly small changes, like school pickup flexibility. Remember, Sarah left for Fridays off in summer. Not a raise, not a promotion. Time. That's what she valued, and no one asked her until it was too late. The data from 2026 shows a clear shift. 68% of companies plan to hire this quarter, intensifying talent competition. Keeping who you have matters more than ever. There's ongoing debate about whether unlimited PTO actually improves retention or just creates confusion and guilt. And honestly, the research is mixed. Some HR professionals argue these policies only work with explicit manager support and clear expectations. Without that structure, unlimited becomes unusable. My suggestion? Consider creating visible growth paths. Even in a 5-person company, you can define what advancement looks like through expanded responsibilities and skill development. There's real tension here for small business owners. You invest in developing someone, and they become more attractive to your competitors. What if they leave anyway? But the data suggests investing is the right bet. ADP's research shows that focusing on upskilling and career development is how small businesses retain and develop talent in-house. The businesses that invest in growth tend to keep people longer. And even if someone eventually leaves, they leave as an ambassador, not an adversary. If you're finding this helpful, by the way, consider subscribing. We cover practical strategies like this every week for small business owners who want to build something that lasts. Let's bring this back to Marcus. After Sarah left, he lost one client immediately, spent 3 months training her replacement, watched productivity crater during the transition. When he finally really did the math, the number was $27,000, more than he budgeted for marketing that entire year. But here's what Marcus did next. He called a team meeting, not to announce new policies, to ask questions. What do you actually need? What would make you stay? What would make you leave? He asked, and then he listened. The answers surprised him. One person wanted to shift her start time by 1 hour to avoid traffic. Another wanted quarterly check-ins on career goals. A third asked for budget to attend one industry conference annually. The total cost of implementing every request? About $400 per employee per year, less than he'd spent on the office coffee machine. According to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce research on budget-friendly retention, the strategies that work best for small businesses often cost almost nothing. They just require attention and intentionality. Now, I want to be clear. Your mileage will vary here. Every team is different. But the principle tends to hold across most small businesses I've seen. Here's my challenge to you. This week, ask one employee what would make their work better. Not in a formal survey, just a genuine conversation over coffee. The answer might be something you can fix tomorrow, or it might be something that requires planning. Either way, you'll know, and that knowing is worth everything. Dynamic HR's research into 2026 retention trends found that the core pillars haven't changed: flexibility, learning, recognition, culture, and well-being. What's changed is which businesses act on them. Large corporations have HR departments and benefits consultants and massive budgets, but they also have bureaucracy. They move slowly. Small businesses can move fast. That's actually your edge. When an employee asks for something reasonable, you can say yes in the same conversation. Try getting that at a Fortune 500. Marcus kept his remaining team for 18 months after that conversation. Zero turnover. His estimate, he saved close to $70,000 in retention costs alone. More importantly, he built something, a culture where people wanted to stay. Where the question, what do you need, became normal, not exceptional. So here's the math. One employee saved equals $23,000. Cost of the conversation that saved them? Zero. Cost of implementing what they asked for? Usually under $500. That's the retention equation that most small business owners miss. They compete on salary because they think that's the only lever. It's not. Flexibility, recognition, growth paths, these cost almost nothing, and they're exactly what employees value most in 2026. You don't need to outspend the big companies. You just need to outcare them. And that's something you can start tomorrow. This is not financial advice. Always consult with a qualified advisor for your specific situation. Thanks for listening to Small Business Signals. Now go ask someone what they need.